here at B2B Forum, and one of my favorite events of the year, and I love Boston this time of year. We drove in, saw some amazing scenes of leaves and all the different colors. But today I'm here with Tish, and we're going to talk about demand gen, right? It's because that's your specialty, and you're doing an office hours here.
Yeah, I have 2 office hours, one at 3:15 on Thursday, and then I think at 9 on Friday morning.
Awesome. And I love the office hours. I volunteered for every single one last year. So I spoke, I had 1 hour, but I wasn't podcasting except for a couple shows. And so I was like, hey, you need help, And so that's always a great time to see the people that just rush in with their questions, and you can pass them off and bounce them around.
Oh, good. I'm excited then.
And then, you get to meet other speakers and talk to them and find out how the mesh is. And it's really like the people don't take advantage of it enough because it's free consulting one-on-one with so many experts. And so, at a conference like this, it's definitely a smart thing to do is to sit down if they have office hours. But to talk about demand gen, what are some of the things that you're seeing, the hot ideas or topics that are coming up right now that you think people are going to ask about when it comes to demand?
Well, the hot topic right now, of course, is account-based marketing. I mean, everybody's going berserko over it. And I'm actually writing a blog post about this because there's a lot of things that are new about account-based marketing. There's a lot of new technology enablement that is happening. But essentially what account-based marketing is something that marketers have always done, which is targeting. It's just simply a way of being much more focused on a specific list. And it's also about the partnership with sales, which is very core to demand gen. And so really agreeing on what the target list is. But I'm seeing some really cool things out there, like with content syndication, you used to go out and say, oh, I want, financial services companies with at least 1,000 employees or whatever. And that's what you would say to your vendor. But now I can give them a list of companies and get specifically the leads I want. So there's a few new things happening out there, but mostly it's really about kind of refining this whole idea of targeting that we've always been doing.
Yeah, and I think it's a great time to see account-based take off with the same kind of time of this drop of B2B and more H to H or human, this idea that businesses aren't just brick and mortar, that they are humans, that people, because when I think account-based, I think of my great-grandfather knowing who needs a refill of the grain. So when he makes a trip to Kansas City, he'll buy it and then he'll drop it off on the way home because he knows his customers well enough. And when you think about like some of the salespeople and the issue they have with the cold calls being ignored or the emails being ignored, and kind of the last ditch effort for these marketing drips that make it seem like they've had a conversation with you and you're ignoring them. There needs to be involvement with marketing, right?
Right. So that we're both doing the same things to the same people, and that we're partnering and we're opening the door for them really in a real way versus letting them fend for themselves always, and for them to feel, being a salesperson is one of the hardest jobs out there. So anything we can do to help them is what we should be doing as marketers.
Yeah. And I think now that salespeople are starting to see that there's something to things like content marketing, there's something to reaching out and building awareness and building like more of a rapport with somebody earlier on.
And one of the things I really do with my clients, and it is one of my main focuses, is teaching marketing to speak the language of the business, and to stop talking about clicks and open rates and things like that. We still need to talk about that stuff privately and say, okay, that email didn't work because of the subject line, and get really deep into that sort of stuff. But when we talk to the business, we need to talk about opportunities. We need to talk about pipeline. We need to talk about driving revenue. And that's what starts to make marketing have a seat at the strategy table, is that we don't appear like, we're focused on pretty pictures and making things look good, that we're focused on the business.
Absolutely. And I think you see marketing teams coming in too late in the game, right? So the product's already been developed and now they want to sell it. And it's like, you need to start being, like you said, the strategy, be in the strategy meeting. So you know what we're releasing in the next 6 months and a year. So you start building that demand, right?
But you have to earn that right to be at that table and show that you're not about, throwing parties and events and things like that. Although that's important, event strategy is very important, but that you tie that stuff to the bottom line. And it was interesting. I was talking to a potential client just yesterday, and I said, I can now tie your event to your revenue. I can build the infrastructure that will show exactly how much revenue that event drove. And it's the difference now is being able to have both offline and online activities measured as part of the funnel.
Yeah, and you mentioned, it's technology, right? So when when you're talking about your customers and you're looking at it from like who we're trying to reach, what's some of the initial stuff that we need to look at? And I think you mentioned like a compass, right? What's that initial idea?
Yeah. So I definitely think of demand gen as this like machine that you're building, and you want it automated, you want it scalable, you want it easy to use, you want it measurable, all these sorts of things. And when you're to build that machine, some of the inputs you have to have are your positioning, your branding, your messaging, your personas, and then your target market. You have to be very clear on all those things. The next thing that you think about is your database. What is your house list look like? Who are the people that you already have in? And I encourage people, if they do have a house list, first thing to do, if you don't really know the source of that, is make sure that your data has been cleansed.
Yes.
So, work with a reputable vendor, send your list out, get it cleansed, make sure you don't have spam traps in it. And also consider appending data to it so that you can do segmentation, so you can know who is in your list. And then you compare that. You say, okay, here's who I have, and here's my target. Who do I want? How much of my target do I actually already have, and how much do I need to build? And then that's where you go after your net new strategy. So you build a net new strategy of bringing in exactly the names that you want to have based on your target market. So there's a lot of ways to do that. You can do that through SEO on your website. You can do that through paid media like pay-per-click. You can do that through events where you get lists. You can do that through partner marketing. You have to create a complete strategy around net new, but also not forgetting your house list and creating a program where you're engaging with them. If your house list does contain a lot of your target market, that's going to be your best source of pipeline.
Oh, yeah. You'll find a lot of money in looking at current customers and also those customers who haven't purchased from you in a while.
Right. They're prospects that haven't really purchased you, but they've been receiving your newsletter, or they know who the heck you are. They've been engaging with your content. They're always going to be the easiest to convert if they're the right people. But, a lot of people have a list that is cobbled together from very strange sources. So you're like, you have to really have a net new strategy and a house list strategy.
And I find like with a lot of our clients, the title does not mean anything when it comes to the decision-making power. You could be the CMO of a $2 billion company and you cannot make a decision without some executive VP or the CEO involved, or it could be the director of just digital something that buys everything.
Well, you also can't underestimate the power of the manager level people for some buyer's journeys. So with some product sets, it could be somebody very low level in the organization who is hands-on dealing with that issue every day, who has the ability and to raise that issue up within their organization. So sometimes everybody's like, oh, I want director level and above. That's what I want. But I have a current client right now where the initial contact is happening at the manager level. The person who signs on the dotted line is the CMO or the VP of marketing or whatever. But the person who initially they're having the really high quality conversations with in the beginning is at a very low level in the organization. So you really have to map your buyer's journey.
I think that's the information that you want, because if you find that there's somebody at the manager level making decisions, then that's most likely a pretty organized company that they've shared enough of the responsibility out to the people that they have. So that's a whole nother strategy, right? You start to see those things and say, okay, we need to start interacting with.
And it's different in every company, and it's in some companies. We end up sitting around a table and we talk through, okay, what have you seen? Talk to salespeople, talk to customers, and sort of determine, what we think the buyer's journey are. Other places are at a different level of sophistication where you can go into the data and pull out information and say, okay, these people interacted with us early on. These titles look like these are early in the buyer's journey. Then it moves over here. And you can, from a data perspective, determine that. And that's something that I found is really critical in my work with companies, is kind of meeting them where they are. Mm-hmm. It's kind of always the same things over and over, but at different levels of sophistication. So when I first walk in the door, I'm always going to talk about reporting and metrics. But in the first iteration, the first sprint, if you will, because I'm a big believer in agile marketing, awesome. is let's just report on the clicks and opens, because that's what we have today. Yep. And we're going to start to build the infrastructure so that we can look at conversions. And then we're going to start reporting on that. And then we're going to build the infrastructure so that we can look at pipeline. And then in the next sprint, we might be able to start building forecasting. But it's the same thing kind of in each sprint. We're looking at reporting and building that capability, but it's where's your organization and what are they ready for?
Your CMO just handed you a global campaign with a short deadline and the request to lead with video. You're given a team of you and, well, you. This campaign is asking for 15 videos that need to create awareness and engagement across multiple online destinations, drive demand and lead gen, and measure performance. Whew, calm down. Everything's gonna be okay. We've got you covered. First things first, we're gonna set you up with Video Marketing Suite, which will allow you to access everything you need from a single online location. And it's made for marketers, so you can easily run your campaign yourself. With just a couple of clicks, your videos are uploaded, automatically optimized to work across all screens and devices. You can distribute to your social channels to reach audiences where they are, and then drive them back to a customized branded video portal using Gallery, which you can create quickly, easily, and in multiple languages. For live events, Brightcove offers an easy-to-use live streaming interface, and after you're done streaming, trim the video and post it on demand for people who missed the event. We'll even help you create interactive elements to optimize video for lead generation. To make sense of all this, our analytics platform tracks a number of statistics in an easy-to-use UI. This data feeds into leading marketing automation platforms. You can see who watched and for how long, and what other content they consumed. Then you know what to create and who it's for. We're Brightcove. We'll help ensure that your video marketing is a success.
And exactly, and you're taking your customer on a journey and teaching them how to take their customers on a journey. And that's why I love the sprint metaphor, because everyone has a goal, and the goal's built off of the next one, and it just continues to build up this bigger package where you're always going to be better off than you were before you started that.
Yeah, sprint. And clients really do appreciate it because it's tangible. We're going to get something quickly. I was curious to talk to you about, like, what do you think is the appropriate sprint for a marketing agile sort of situation? Because obviously in technology, and I have a background, I used to write code and things like that a long time ago. But
it's
now
okay. A lot of us do.
How we got here is a very strange journey. But, their sprints are like 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding sprints are more like 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes a whole quarter makes sense for some. I like to keep it, 6 weeks is half of a quarter. So we can kind of break the quarter in half and say, okay, we're going to try to accomplish this in the first half of the quarter and accomplish this in the second half.
Yeah. So when I get in an agile process, if I get more than 3 weeks into a sprint and I feel like it needs to be more, I go off of a release. Or a milestone, right? So if we took 4 sprints together, and then out of that, we want to push and prioritize these items to have a milestone, a finished objective, a release, right?
So you might have 3-4 week sprints in a quarter or something like that. Okay.
Exactly. And then, or I would probably do 1 to 2 week sprints, because I find marketing teams are so pulled with ideas and the ability to change and flex, and it's not as laid out as a product. Because on a product, it's usually like it's so long out there and you have so many things that you're scraping off to get to the end. It is a waterfall stair step, right, of agile. But with marketing, it is like it pivots so much, and your insights, like especially when we're talking about account based, right? You might find some insights that lead you down a path that you really feel like you'll get a quicker return if you investigate this sector or this section or these accounts, right, that you dug out of the data. And that's a complete change of where you're going, but it still has the same milestone goal. So the smaller, and it depends on the team size too.
Right.
But I'm when I go on a diet, I have to see wins right quickly, or when I start running, I have to run a mile and be excited about that time and not the time of the long distance. So I like those small wins. I was neglected gold stars as a kid in elementary school, and I want them for the rest of my life now. So I'm always all about the quick wins and the quick measurements too, because you can find that data, how well you perform in those small objectives and the big objectives too. So, but I think marketers from a demand gen perspective, sales feel like the sales teams feels like they're better equipped for it. And I think marketers just don't know where to begin, right?
Where to begin with what?
With starting to find people to reach out to, right? They have the idea of who the group is, but when it comes to account based, it's a little scary because it's like, here's a list of 10 accounts in this particular sector or this region or whatever, and they don't know, like they're scared.
It is because it's difficult to do. I mean, building a database of exactly the right contacts that you want is very difficult to do. So you can go out to, Zoom Info and Net Prospects and all these guys and buy contacts. It's going to be incomplete. Number one, it's not going to provide. Say you have 3,000 on your account list, and 5 different titles you're looking for. You'd be lucky to come back with maybe 30 or 40% of what you want from a contact purchase perspective. So then you have to go out to paid media, and like I said, paid media is getting better. Like I said, in some content syndication, vendors will allow you to give an account list, which makes it very powerful for you. But if you're doing retargeting or pay-per-click or any of those things, it's a mixed bag. You're not going to get exactly who you want. And then your website too is going to be it's going to be attracting all kinds of people. But what you can do on the back end is because there's still going to be some mass marketing out there happening, is you can do things like lead scoring based on role, are they the right title, and company name, so are they the right contact. So you can make something an A1 if, say, they're the right role and the right company, and that would immediately go to sales, versus, and something that maybe isn't on the target account market, you could maybe wait longer, make it have to score higher before it gets sent over to sales, kind of thing.
Yeah, it requires you to stop doing and start planning, right? And coming up with that strategy.
Well, planning is definitely a challenge for a lot of marketers, and having a planning methodology that works for your company type, because every company I work with has different players and they play different roles in the planning process. So sometimes product marketing is like front and center and they're kind of setting the go-to-market strategy. Sometimes, the CEO wants to be heavily involved with the planning strategy. And so you have to help my clients build a planning process that allows them at a regular cadence to roll out programs quickly. It's kind of a semi-waterfallish type of thing, but it's iterative. So we're always at stage 1 planning for something, and then we might be in stage 2 for this set of programs and stage 1 for this set of programs, so that we can keep rolling new things out all the time.
Oh, absolutely. I like to think of those as the doctor boards, like on Grey's Anatomy, right? It's like, here's everything that's going on right now.
Right.
And everyone needs to have an eye to it, because at some point it's going to come to your circle.
You'd be surprised how many people don't have a full view into what's going on, all the programs that are going on, and the expected results of those programs. So I have a very simple template that has all the programs, has a quarterly calendar, so you can visually see when things are going to be in market. But then the columns that come after that are, how much money did we spend on it? What was the level of effort? So some programs are really easy to put in market, and they're, one and done. So you want to put low level of effort, so they're really easy to do. Yeah. Who's in charge of them? What's the impressions? What is the conversion rate? What's the expected pipeline of those? All in one sheet, and you can very easily see, this is what we expect to deliver for the quarter. And it's, I'm surprised how many people just don't know what everything is that's going on, and they forget to account for things like, the website. We're going to get leads from the website too.
Yeah, or the events, like you talked about, like they'll have an expo downstairs, and people will be
giving
down
us
there,
business
right?
cards.
And they're giving us business cards and scanning our badges. But then you also have people here that are meeting people that, those might be influencers, those, they might be in different departments. And so we need that information, right? Because like at my company, we're a small agency. We have 13 people, and every project comes from somewhere else. And it's, it's like all of a sudden somebody spoke at an event 2 years ago, and they met this guy, and all of a sudden they remembered us when they had this thing. And it's, we can track that, and we can start to pull that data in. So as long as it's there in the CRM, it doesn't mean we're going to act on it. Because we met somebody and they gave us a card, doesn't mean we're going to call them and put them into a funnel. It just means we need that information, that context. So
those are kind of the two other things that I feel like are really hot right now in demand gen. Attribution, like how do I appropriately attribute pipeline to various campaigns that I'm doing? There's a lot of different models out there, and there's some really cool tools out there now that can do it. And the other one is predictive. I feel like predictive is a little less hot because you kind of have to have attribution and lead scoring and a whole lot of other stuff that people don't have yet all implemented before you can do predictive, because you've got to have the data to do the analysis on.
Yeah, and the science is early too. I mean, it's...
And it's frustrating a little bit, because I feel like vendors get my clients excited about stuff that they're not ready for, that they simply can't implement right now. And I'm like, you need to baby steps. We're going to get there. And it really is a year-long path, I think. When especially so the client that I'm here presenting with, their journey started in January. They had never passed a lead from marketing to sales. So in fact, there was no connection between Salesforce and Marketo. Oh, wow. So we really built it all out from scratch. And here we are in October, and they're in great shape. They have baselines. They have a lead flow. They have follow-up happening. They can measure pipeline. We're starting to do first touch attribution and last touch attribution, but not multi-touch attribution yet. We're not quite ready for that. And then the next thing that we're going to do is lead scoring. But there were so many steps in between, getting started and doing something like that, and at the same time wanting to prove ourselves throughout the whole time. So one of the things I'm really a big advocate for is walking in the door and saying, okay, we're gonna launch a campaign in 20 days. Yeah. Because I learn more about my client and where they actually are in terms of their infrastructure and their sales processes and their people, the skills of the people that they have, by actually doing something instead of sort of doing this big, long discovery process.
But it's a win, right? And it's a small win.
And they get very excited. They're like, this client, we did our first email in 17 business days. Yeah. And we actually delivered the leads through Marketo. One of my previous clients, we delivered the first email, same situation, never passed a lead to sales. Took us 22 days to get the first one out, but we delivered the leads in a spreadsheet. But you
It
just
works.
have to meet people where they
Yeah.
are. Like if that's where they are, if they don't have the system set up, we have to start somewhere
Yeah.
and then build from there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised at some of the very large companies we work with where we get a lot of their accounts in an Excel list, and that's what they use every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not even in a CRM, and the data's old. And like I go through, and as a former still kind of current software developer, I go through, scrub it, analyze it, look out on the web, find as much data as I can, and then I bring it back to those people because we're really big in vendor partner relationships. I bring them back their own sales list and say, "Here, this is cleaner.
This is updated.
These guys are
That's
these
hilarious.
guys are bad. They're bankrupt. They're out of business. Here's their website. Here's the kind of tools they're using. Here's kind of email platforms or whatever it is." Like I give it back something valuable to them. So then we build a stronger relationship, because I find on accounts, especially in account-based marketing, there are so many other people that you work with or that are in your sphere that you guys offer a solution, especially like you talked about with Marketo and, Salesforce. Well, why not work with Marketo and Salesforce to come in and work together? And then you've got their power, their pocketbooks.
Right.
And they're just like you. They're trying to find demand, find all these leads and work together.
And that's what I'm truly passionate about, is helping marketers be able to show the results of their marketing. And there's so many companies out there that are not on this kind of the bleeding edge. Like I love coming to conferences like this, and I love seeing like the fancy things that people are doing, and like, wow, oh my God, I can't believe they were able to do that. That's really. But for the majority of the companies out there, they're still blocking and tackling.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy like taking it to the next level for all of them. I have one of my best friends is also a marketing consultant, and she works in the bleeding edge. That's what she's passionate about. Like she has, very large scale clients who like American Express and people like that. And they are just way out there doing stuff that I haven't even heard of, has never been tested.
Yeah.
But I'm more about like getting the fundamentals right.
Absolutely.
Tried and true. You want to make it work. You want to be able to show results to your CEO. That's what I want to help you do.
Today, real time is the only time that counts. To stay relevant, you have to stay ahead. Your customers want the right information, right now, wherever they are. So how do you meet the demands of today's customers? By marketing in context. Context accounts for a customer's interaction with your brand. So each touch builds on the next, creating more meaningful experiences for your customers. At Sitecore, we call this context marketing. To do it well, you need marketing technology that has three things: contextual intelligence, content management, and omni-channel automation. Contextual intelligence gives you the information you need about your consumers, so the content you manage is more relevant and is automatically delivered wherever your customers are. The Sitecore Experience platform was built for context marketing, so you can create a more personalized customer experience. Demand more from your marketing technology. Demand more from marketing. Own the experience. Sitecore.
But it's fun to work with a team scrappy. At Content Marketing World, we talked to Nicole Smith from Dell, and she talked about how scrappy their team was.
Oh, really?
And you're like,
Really?
You seriously just threw up a WordPress site to get this whole thing started? She's like, we had to. We didn't have budget. We had to prove it. And so once we proved it,
I like that.
and then the budget
I like
came.
hearing that.
And so it was like, that's a team that's doing small things that will grow, more the MVP model, right? Let's start something with whatever we can do to get out the door to prove value, to prove it works. Like you talked
a lot of my clients are at that place where they've been super scrappy before. Like they hired a couple of people who are, running some events or pushing some emails through Cheetah Mail. and they've either just got their next round of funding or they're ready to scale, and their CEO is nervous because they're like, I want to put a bunch of money into marketing. I know that my product is solid. I've hired my sales leader. My sales team is starting to churn. I need to put a lot of money in marketing, but I'm afraid to.
Yeah, never have, right?
Because it feels like a black box to a lot of CEOs. They don't feel confident that the money that's being spent. There was that old quote that says, I know 50% of my marketing is working, but I don't know which 50%, which half is working. So I really want to be able to show them, okay, this is what's working. This is what's not working. And if you decide to put another $100, $200, $500,000 into marketing, this is the ROI I can show you that you're going to get, because we went through and we created all the baselines. We know what's going to happen.
And we know that this item isn't working yet, but that's because there's a yet on the end of it, right? Because it's earlier stage, because it's longer transition, right? We know they just bought a server, so they're not ready to go to the cloud, but we need to start engaging with them now, kind of things, those ideas that, it's not all about the top of the funnel, right? There's so many different aspects of it. That's why I love our jobs. It's like,
it is very creative.
Always come up with something that is a new approach and a new style.
And it's also, I feel, increasingly becoming both an art and a science. I feel like marketers were previously kind of put into this art box. And I'm very passionate about creativity. I went to art school. I love design. It's very important in my personal life as well as my professional life. But I'm also kind of a quant jock geek, like loves a spreadsheet kind of person.
A blended brain.
Yeah. So I love running the numbers, and I love feeling like, we have both now. And more marketers are becoming quantitative, or more marketers are becoming technology oriented, or we're having technologists move from software development into marketing automation and places like that. And it's becoming such a more interesting, multiple attribute kind of a environment where all kinds of people are kind of working together.
Exactly. You're starting to see the future of maybe the department silos really need to come down, and we need to think of initiatives and movements and what we're doing in the organization and how they could blend, because a good software developer, a good graphics designer, a good writer, and a good creative thinker and an organized person together make an amazing marketing team. But normally they would live in different houses.
Exactly. And that one of the things that I find coming into an organization who wants to do demand gen, and one of the biggest, barriers to success is if they don't realize that implementing demand gen is not a marketing function. It is a whole company function. And that when I come in, all of a sudden we need more sales ops help. We need more tech help. We need more input from the CFO's team, and all of these people really have to be very involved with it. And sometimes they're surprised. They're like, we, added 2 headcount to marketing for this. And I'm
exactly.
like, that's not going to cut it. This is going to transform your entire company.
Yeah, exactly. And so, let's say all those sales work. Well, who's working in HR to make sure that we have the ability to bring on the people, right?
Yeah.
If you're services based, then
and I will tell you that is the number one thing right now is hiring great demand gen people. And my personal plan for my business is to do a combination of hiring people and growing them, like creating my own sort of apprenticeship program, because they're not teaching this stuff in college. These
they
people
won't
aren't.
Colleges will not exist by the time they would be able to start teaching it.
But there's a lot of kids out there that are really interested in getting involved in it, and they love the idea of being a marketer who's also a techie, who's involved with social media and doing all these other kinds of things. So that is probably the other big barrier for a lot of my clients, is they can't hire the right people.
The next 10 years is going to change so much. I think the speed of technology is finally at that place to where businesses have to change, right? You can't just do a solution sell. You can't just do, an approach and this commission and, commission-based sales on one side, and then the salary-based,
For the
issues,
customer,
right?
yeah,
And the
yeah.
customer, there's so much that has to,
Mhm.
that we have to say, stop. We need to rethink this whole thing. And I love that the customer is the one that's kind of causing it because of their lack
They're
of,
so powerful now.
right?
Yeah. And that's the other powerful thing, just to kind of circle back to account-based marketing, is that we want to become smarter marketers because we do not want to spam people. And one of the reasons I'm so passionate about being a B2B marketer is that it's not about, convincing a consumer that they need to spend $20 more on makeup or something like that. It's really about creating this connection between a need at a company and a solution that a company has. And B2B companies do not want to spam people. They do not want to do high volume stuff. They really want to hone in and find the people who actually are interested in their solution, and that buying that solution is going to make a fundamental difference to their business and their ability to deliver their product.
Exactly. I always go back to, how is your customer, how is your client reacting right now? How are they reacting on the weekend, right? When your product's in live,
Mhm.
and then how are they going to win, right? If you don't know how they're going to win when you're talking about this, then you can't help them
Mhm.
win. And then you're just a bad guide, right? And they're not going to make it through their journey at all.
And it actually was a kind of a pivot for me, because a lot of my training was in high volume stuff. I worked at monster.com. I worked at the Apollo Group, which was doing 1 million leads a year. And so it was a lot of like testing and optimization on really large databases, and just sending the message out really broadly, and then figuring out how to convert down to the ones. Now instead, the top of the funnel is just getting smaller and smaller. We don't want to bother people because there's so many messages in the marketplace that there's already so much clutter. So you have to really hope that you can get to the people that
Exactly.
wanna hear you.
You're trying to pull in that line of serendipitous interactions with
Mhm.
people, and then actually, targeted marketing, trying to find those realms where they actually start to come together.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about retargeting. For a lot of my clients, it ends up not being a huge volume play for them in terms of leads, but a great in terms of low cost per lead, high conversion. Because retargeting is somebody who's visited your website. They're interested. It's a very high likelihood that they have some sort of need or interest around your product set. And that is the kind of stuff that you want to see more of.
Oh yeah, and the software is just there now, right?
Yeah,
we can work.
yeah.
With it. We can work with the pixels. We can work with the tag managers, and we can get the data in. So as we start to wrap this up, what are you most excited about this event, as an attendee and as kind of
I'll be a
influencer?
speaker on Thursday afternoon. So I'm co-presenting with the CMO of Reputation.com, who's a client of mine, and they are the ones who have done this journey of never having passed a lead to actually being able to attribute revenue to their work. So that's going to be a really exciting. And one of the other things that I'm going to go to is the roundtable talks in the morning, just to like meet people. I think it's a great way to just make more connections with people here. I love this event. Like you, I think it's one of the best run marketing events. Certainly, I think the best B2B marketing event out there. And I love the passionate marketing profs people, not just the staff whom I adore, but the people who have been pro members for 10 years or whatever. They're just they're really passionate about the brand, which is just great to see.
Yeah, and every year it gets a little bigger, but it still feels like the same event.
Still does. So next year they're going to be here again, but then I heard after that they're moving to a new city, and
A new city.
I know.
Is it because of the hotel costs?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not the cost. It's they're getting too big.
Yeah.
And they were already sold out for the dates or something like that.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was like,
yeah, well, I mean, it's like content marketing world outside of Cleveland, and Unbound and marketing profs outside of Boston would just be weird. It's like,
I like it here too because I went to school here for undergrad.
Yeah.
And I just like to come back and
I just think
see
it's like marketing mecca, right?
Yeah.
it's everything is here. You got all these cool startups,
cool
and a
companies,
lot of
yeah.
big companies, and
Yeah.
then you just got a lot of history up here. So it's fun. In the leaves. I mean, you can't, if you're going to be
I know.
October.
I'm going to Maine next weekend. It'll be past peak, but it'll still be gorgeous.
It doesn't matter if a few of them are on the road. Well, thanks for your time today, Tish.
That's great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Cool.